All right, let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts, where they're at and what they can do for the future. Obviously, the big question, which is the case of a lot of teams, is going to be that quarterback position. You just gave up a lot of draft capital for Carson Wentz, and now there's reports they might want to move off of him, so that's interesting. We'll get into that. But first, let's just talk about kind of where they're at, who they have as upcoming free agents, and also how much cap space that they have, because they're always a team that seems to have a good amount of cap space. Well, here's where they're at. They have $38 million in cap space. So you see it underneath. Those are their free agents, and also about how much they're projected to get. This is using PFF projections. The one that really surprised me, and I think is too high, is Eric Fisher. I can't imagine him getting $16 million a year. That feels like that's way too high. That's what they said. So they know more about the stuff than I do. I'm just someone who watches football, but at the same time, that feels like weirdly high. I guess part of it is you feel like he's back from the injury now, can be more healthy, and a guy like a solid starting left tackle that's very valuable in football. But I still feel like the injury history, and it's not like he's a superstar when he's not injured, probably less than $16 million, I would assume. Also some, offensive weapons here with Mo Alley-Cox, who's good. I think that for $7 million, I'd probably be considering bringing him back. Also T.Y. Hilton, who, again, what T.Y. Hilton are we getting here? Are we getting the T.Y. Hilton in his prime that is this amazing deep threat? But maybe we still saw some flashes of that. It's not like he's this complete bum of a player. And for $7 million, that's not the worst option in the world to keep him. When he was on the field, he looked solid. And again, it's not like the Colts are really in a position to try to shoo away wide receivers at this point. So you could definitely go that way. You also have Mark Glonowski here. So another solid guard. I don't think he's a star by any means, but he's a fine player. And again, you don't need to have 5 superstars on the offensive line. They got a couple of superstars, and then you just kind of fill out the rest of the roster, and just try to have quality offensive line play at all 5 positions. So again, for $6 million, I probably keep him. Then a couple other interesting guys, Xavier Rhodes and Marlon Mack. For Xavier Rhodes, again, kind of similar to T.Y. Hilton. What are we getting here? He's not a bad player. He has value in his own right. So if he's only getting $3 million, it's probably worth it to take him. Worst case scenario, you have a veteran backup. So it could be worse than that. And if you lose him, who's going to be corner for you? You have to have 3 corners. So who's the other guys? I guess Rocky Sin and Kenny Moore, but you need a third one. So maybe Isaiah Rodgers is that. But you would like to just have another corner in the building. Granted, the Colts don't really, value corners like their defense. They play a lot of cover too, so corners have a lot of safety help a lot of the time. So it's not the worst. It's not as valuable as it is in other positions, but still, that's kind of where we're at with Rhodes. And again, Marlon Mack, halfback, couple million. You could keep him or leave him. Halfbacks are kind of a dime a dozen, and you have Jonathan Taylor. So with Nyheim Hines already on the roster, it might be something to just let Marlon Mack walk. So here are some players they could cut if they want to save some cap space. The big one, Carson Wentz, they would save $13 million if they cut him. I don't know if you want to just cut him outright. I mean, at this point, might as well keep him. What else do you have? Are you going to roll into the season with Sam Ehlinger? You don't have a first-round pick, so I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, you could trade him. It'd be $28 million for a trade. I don't know. I think people are a bit too harsh on Wentz. He wasn't great this year, but he wasn't horrible either. I don't know if it's worth it to just straight up get rid of him. But again, some people have speculated that's what they should do. So this is what you would get. And, maybe I feel like some team would at least take Carson Wentz for $28 million. They might not give you a first and third round pick for him, but they would at least take him. So you could clear that cap space if you want to. But again, it all comes back to okay, well then what are you going to do after this? Where are you going to save the money anywhere else? So a couple other guys that I just don't think that they'll get rid of, but I just put them on the list because these are guys you could get rid of, Grover Stewart, a good interior defensive lineman, Kenny Moore, a good corner. They're not getting rid of those guys, I don't think. But if you wanted to, you could save $15 million, but I wouldn't do that. You also have Bobby Okereke, who only is getting paid $3 million and is a solid starting linebacker. So again, I think that'd be silly to get rid of him, but he's on the table if you wanted to. There wouldn't be much dead cap for any of these guys, but you would lose a good player, so that's the issue. Then Kadri Willis, he might be at least an option, I think, but again, only $3 million. He's an okay safety, so I think it's fine to keep him as well. I don't really know why you'd rush to cut him unless you absolutely needed those $3 million. So the reality is unless you get rid of Wentz, you're probably not going to cut guys to save money. But again, as I always say, every team spends over the salary cap in terms of actual money. The Colts could very easily do that. So even if they re-sign all those guys, it's not like, they can't do it or they would have to cut someone for $3 million. No, they'd be fine to make that happen. Going over here now, this is where they ranked in terms of PFF grades for each positional category. So again, like the passing game, okay, it wasn't great, but it was 20th in football. It wasn't like 31st in football or something terrible. Like there was some value there with this Carson Wentz stuff, and it's probably better off than relying on Ellinger, who I thought his college tape was fine, but he still was a 6th round draft pick for a reason. So is that really where you're going to go? Offensive line is good and probably better than 12th, I would think. It's a good offensive line. Receiving core, again, didn't grade terribly, but you would like to see it better. And I think, adding a receiver could also help stuff for Carson Wentz. I heard Mike Williams to the Colts. I think that would make a lot of sense. That's a kind of a great fit for what Wentz does. And also Mike Williams, he makes a lot of tough catches, so that kind of works perfectly. One thing that the Colts do well, and again, worth mentioning, this Colts team, should have made the playoffs last year. They were beating Jacksonville away from making the postseason, and a lot of people felt like they were a dark horse to really do some damage if they got in. Big part of it was because they ran the ball well and because they had great run defense. Jonathan Taylor was the best running back in football according to PFF and according to anyone who watched football last year. I mean, he was just amazing. They stopped the run very well. Their pass rush is, maybe you could use some improvement there. That's kind of not a super strength, and also coverage isn't incredibly strong. So there are some areas for improvement, but as a whole, the run defense, it makes the defense as a whole good. And they can run their way into wins, and let's not forget, Frank Reich is very good at scheming stuff up. So this is not a horrible situation by any means, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, listen, as a whole, there's plenty to like about the Colts. I think some people are kind of making it out as though they're just this abysmal team. Me personally, I'd probably just keep Carson Wentz. I don't know why I would run him out of town necessarily after he kind of played. I mean, again, he wasn't great. He wasn't what you wanted to see him be, but he was fine. That's kind of Carson Wentz to a T, right? He's a fine quarterback. I don't know why you need to run him out of town. And you nearly made the playoffs last year. Don't freak out too much. Don't panic. And listen, if Carson Wentz also doesn't play well this next year, now you can cut him for no penalty. So then you just get rid of him and move on. The contract itself isn't terrible. $28 million for a solid starting quarterback. That's fine. You can live with that. So that's kind of my main thought process with the Carson Wentz stuff. I think I keep Carson Wentz. I try to get him a quality receiver that he can throw to, another quality receiver he can throw to, Michael Pittman doing what he did. That was cool. That was great. That was nice. But let's put some more resources in there. Even, a 2nd round pick, you can get a good receiver with that. So improve the receiving core a little bit and maybe get another corner. And I think that this is still a team that could contend for the playoffs, especially when you have, a great running game that they did last year. So that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.